I literally worship pretty much ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, and Roman history to a point. More Greek and Egypt. Now that I am older and have had so much time studying, I love that Cleopatra was everything I just loved in history. She was a pharaoh, so she was Greek. I mean, she was Egyptian, but she was Greek. Because she was, after Alexander conquered Egypt, Alexander the Great was a pharaoh, the first of the Greek pharaohs. And then the line of Ptolemies, which were Greek pharaohs of Egypt. Greeks, when they were pharaohs, they did the same thing that the pharaohs in Egypt did, and they married amongst their own. There were not there is no way someone who was one of the top members of the family would have more than maybe a mere little fraction of a percent that was not Greek from within the same small group of Ptolemies. So there is no way in any way she would be like the woman who's portraying her in this Jada Pinkett Smith documentary. The problem that makes it even worse, there were pharaohs that were black in Egypt. They could have used real black pharaohs. They didn't have to take a Greek woman just to show a black pharaoh. They didn't have to take a foreign pharaoh to do this. They could have used an actual black pharaoh from history. If the person would have called 1% of research, if they'd have called upon any research whatsoever, they could have found, because they could have watched a freaking episode of Josh Gates, because Nastassim would have been a good one. And anyone else in that line, in that era. They called them the Black Kings, Black Pharaohs of Egypt, because they were actual black people. The people that took over later were Middle Eastern, further north on Africa, and they would have been lighter. And then the Ptolemies were Greek. Why did they have to make Cleopatra black when she wasn't, instead of using an actual black pharaoh? They could have used a real black pharaoh instead of just casting a black woman for a Greek pharaoh. The biggest thing is they could have done it and used historical facts instead of trying to take somebody who wasn't. And they could have actually used it to make the actual black pharaohs more visible. They freaking make a white woman more visible by doing that. She was a white woman. Instead of taking and she's got enough visibility. Cleopatra has enough visibility. They don't need to redo her thing. They should have taken a real black pharaoh and made the story about them. There were black pharaohs in Egypt. That's what pisses me off. Why do they have to do that stupid mockumentary of Cleopatra instead of making an actual documentary of real black pharaohs? Especially with the archaeology that is coming out right now. There is actual factual documentaries, actual information, actual facts, actual real life black pharaohs that they could use. But instead, they take a Greek who were not white at the time until recently. And that's because they're these English people who were like practically the only whites in their vision in like some Scandinavian countries. But I look more like Cleopatra than the woman they got to play her. At least I have the nose. If you look at one of the most prominent features on the coins and all the stuff that we have that actually has Cleopatra, she has a distinctive nose. I'm not saying I should play Cleopatra. I mean, I'm a fat, ugly woman. But I have the nose, so at least one prominent feature that literally matches exactly with Cleopatra. She looks nothing like Cleopatra. We know her skin tone was not that dark because Cleopatra was Greek. She was a Ptolemy. She was Macedonian. She was from the pharaohs that were known as Ptolemies. We have pictures of relatives of her. We know enough about that time from historical evidence and records. She was not black. The Ptolemies were not black. They were people who ruled over Egypt. They were not Egyptian. They were Greek. We have the factual knowledge. There were black people who were pharaohs. We need to take those factual people and bring them to light instead of freaking putting someone who's black into a character that's white in his story. We need to actually use the black pharaohs. That's what I would like to see. Nastassim, for instance. Just do it. If you want to do a documentary, instead of like taking people, why can't we make these people black? No. Let's take real people. I want to see a documentary like that that's got the budget and all on Menelik, the son of Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. I want to see real documentary style, real larger budget stories on real people, not made up stories that you're just putting some white person, taking some white person and putting a black person in their place. I want the real black people. I'm white, but I want the real black people, not these freaking mythologies you're putting. I want to see these real stories. Why not use the real people who were black in history? The Queen of Sheba who ruled her country. She's from Ethiopia. Her son Menelik, who was the son of Solomon, the king from the Bible, the most prominent king in the Bible. Solomon's one of the most important kings in the Bible. He had a son with the Queen of Sheba, an Ethiopian woman. Let's have him recite from Songs of Solomon, use lines from Songs of Solomon in that story. Use the Bible. There were black people in the Bible. Actual black people. Like dark African people were in the Bible. We know for sure Ethiopian people were in the Bible. The Queen of Sheba and Menelik, the son of Solomon, in the Bible. You can take that story, make a big budget movie out of that, and use black people. I want to see that. I want to see that. I don't want to see you faking Cleopatra, who's been done to death. We need real black people, not fakes. Not people who have been done to death and are not black. We need these real black people to be shown, not Not the freaking frog prince, which was a white person, by the way, because that was a European folktale. It was originally called the Frog Prince, not the Princess and the Frog. We don't need to have Cinderella be black. Actually, Ariel works with more than any of them, because if you watched Descendants, Uma, but they're all Greek, by the way. But I'm like, I don't care about the Little Mermaid, because that's a mermaid, for God's sakes. Stupid. I don't care that she was black. But my problem with this is, not even that it's a folktale or anything, that I want to see the actual black people. We should make the stories that are actually from Egypt. There were black pharaohs. I want to see them. And you're wasting time by making Cleopatra black when there are real black pharaohs we know about. Do Nastassim. They found his tomb. They brought up a toe cap with bone in it. It was on Josh Gates, for God's sakes. He went to see that. Just use real people. Don't fake and make mythology out of real people. Use the real people you have. That's the problem. They wasted time. They could have done Menelik and the Queen of Sheba. And they could have not used a white person for Solomon. Because, just a little aside, no one in the Bible was white. They were at best Middle Eastern. Maybe a little more, because they weren't white. They'd have looked like Egyptians. Modern day Egyptians.
Thanks, Jeremy.
So, take some modern day Palestinians or Egyptians. Those are the people. Slightly darker skin, not as dark as Ethiopia. But those are the people who would be the Jewish people. Although the high priests that went with Menelik, when they took the Ark of the Covenant to Ethiopia, there were high priests that went with Menelik. Which one was real, the original Ark, whether he got a copy or the original, I'll leave that up to debate. But when Menelik went to Ethiopia, he took high priests. And they went to Ethiopia, and they were actually, their descendants were cut off from any people as time went by. And then they found this tribe in Ethiopia. And they did a DNA test, and they are very close to ancient Hebrew, the Israelites, from history, from the time of Solomon. Their DNA is very close. They are the Lemna tribe. Just do a little bit, just watch a couple episodes of Josh Gates. And his shows. Just watch some Josh Gates stuff on Discovery Travel Channel. You can find that, and you can find out this stuff. I mean, he just goes to archaeological sites and talks to the archaeologists. The actual facts. Watch some stuff with Zahi Hawass. I mean, he talks about it. I mean, some of the stuff I think he's a little bit too unwilling to go outside the box, even if the evidence shows they might be slightly off. But I trust him a lot more than I trust Jada Pinkett Smith and people who refuse to even look at any evidence. I mean, there are coins that show her facial features. And this was not a prominent feature on that woman. On any of these pictures I've seen of Cleopatra, people who played Cleopatra. This is what I want to see. That which was on the coin. I want someone to look and find someone that closer represents the coin. The actual pictures we have of Cleopatra during her lifetime. There are real coins that were minted during Cleopatra's lifetime. Why do we not use those and try and find someone who looks at least a little bit like them for Cleopatra? None of them, even Elizabeth Taylor's too pretty. She doesn't have the nose, that distinctive nose, that distinctive Greek look. The features that she had more of a jaw too than I do. She had like a longer, pointier chin. So someone with the skinnier face, longer, pointier chin, but that type of nose. That's the way she looked. That's the way they need to find someone that looks to play Cleopatra. We know what she looked like. There are statues. There are pictures of her. We do not need to go and just say, what if she looks like this? She doesn't look like that. We have the facts. I have been watching everything I could find on Egypt and Greece for 30 plus years. I've loved, for as long as I remember, I've loved Egypt and Greece and ancient history. It's been one of the first things I got interested in. We do not need to misrepresent it. They didn't use a Greek person. They didn't use an Egyptian person. They used an American black woman. They could have even gone to Ethiopia or Nubia. At least somewhere in the area. They should have used someone who looked like Cleopatra. We have pictures of her. There was no reason. I want to see the real black pharaohs of Egypt. I want to see the real black pharaohs of Egypt.